Shedeur Sanders said he was ready to start in the NFL, and instead of leaning in, building him up, or even pretending to back his confidence, Kevin Stefanski brushed it off like it was a joke. And that might be the moment everything changed in Cleveland. Because what looked like a simple off-the-cuff coach response has now snowballed into a full-blown internal crisis. The owner, Jimmy Haslam, is reportedly not happy. And if there's one thing we know about Haslam, it doesn't take much to make that coach's seat go from warm to scalding.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Let's be real. This wasn't just about Stefanski downplaying a rookie's self-belief. This was about tone, timing, leadership. Shedeur didn't say anything wild. He didn't demand a starting spot or slam his teammates. He said, confidently, that he's good enough to start for most NFL teams. And honestly, look at how the Browns' offense is playing. Is he wrong? But instead of nurturing that fire, Stefanski went cold. No endorsement. No support. Just a dismissive shrug that made it clear he's sticking with the veteran no matter how stale the offense looks. And that's the kind of conservatism that drives ownership nuts. Especially when your hand-picked vet, Joe Flacco, is fumbling the ball away and can't put up points. Meanwhile, your most dynamic young QB is sitting, watching, and probably wondering what it'll take to get an actual shot. Inside the building, there's tension. Word is, Haslam didn't like Stefanski's response one bit. Not because Shedeur needs to be coddled, but because the entire point of having a young franchise QB is developing him, backing him, giving him confidence. And when your coach publicly shrinks your quarterback's presence like that, it sends a message to the locker room, to the league, and to ownership: we're playing it safe. Problem is, playing it safe is what losing teams do. Haslam's watching all this play out with a familiar look on his face. He's fired coaches for less. And with Shedeur's name starting to trend, with other teams possibly sniffing around for a QB they will develop, the clock is ticking. So yeah, Stefanski might have thought that press conference was routine. But in hindsight, that shrug might have been the beginning of the end. Jimmy Haslam is not happy. And when Jimmy Haslam isn't happy, people lose their jobs. The Cleveland Browns are back in the headlines, and not because they're winning. This time it's a familiar mess swirling around the front office, the coaching staff, and a young quarterback with something to prove. Shedeur Sanders has officially entered the chat, and let's just say the vibes in Cleveland are tense. It all started with what should have been a simple moment of confidence. Sanders, the highly watched rookie quarterback, made a statement. He's ready to start for most NFL teams. That kind of self-assurance is exactly what you want from your QB1, right? Apparently not if you're Kevin Stefanski. The Browns head coach responded with a press conference moment that came across as dismissive, cold, and completely out of touch with the direction the league is going. And that didn't go unnoticed, especially by the man at the top. Jimmy Haslam has reportedly been stewing ever since. Sources close to the situation say the owner was less than thrilled with how Stefanski brushed off Sanders' remarks. This wasn't just a case of keeping a rookie humble, this was a public squashing of confidence. And for an organization already riddled with inconsistency and instability, it was exactly the kind of misstep that can, and often does, get people fired in Cleveland. Let's get something straight. The Browns have never been shy about pulling the plug on coaching experiments. Haslam, in particular, has a reputation for having a short fuse and even shorter patience. This is the same franchise that's burned through coaches like draft picks. So when the whispers started that Haslam might be considering a shakeup, again, it wasn't surprising. What was surprising was that Stefanski would so publicly mishandle a rising star like Shedeur Sanders. Let's talk about Sanders for a second. The guy has kept it classy. He's shown patience, professionalism, and leadership in the face of what can only be described as strategic neglect. While the coaching staff leans into a conservative, old-school mindset, Sanders has kept doing what he does best: preparing, staying ready, and quietly outshining expectations. Meanwhile, the Browns continue to roll with Joe Flacco. A veteran. A known quantity. And sure, he's safe. But he's not the future. And he's definitely not the kind of bold move that wins you long-term success in a league that's leaning younger, faster, and more aggressive by the week. While other franchises are building around raw but electric talent, the Browns are choosing comfort, and it's costing them. Internally, there's growing tension. Stefanski's reluctance to embrace younger quarterbacks, not just Sanders but also Dylan Gabriel, has highlighted a deeper issue. This isn't just about one player. It's a culture problem. A mindset stuck in neutral while the rest of the league speeds forward. Haslam's frustration makes sense. This isn't the first time the Browns have failed to develop young talent, and it's definitely not the first time a coaching regime has been accused of playing it too safe. But in a season where they actually have a quarterback with leadership, charisma, and star power in their lap, the refusal to even try him out is baffling. And Stefanski's press conference didn't help. His tone, his phrasing, it all made it sound like Sanders' confidence was some sort of inconvenience. Instead of leaning into it, embracing the fire, or even just giving a neutral answer, Stefanski iced it out completely. That one moment exposed a chasm between the coaching philosophy and the kind of culture the Browns need to be building. It's not just fans who noticed. The NFL is watching. Teams like the Raiders, Giants, and Panthers are reportedly keeping tabs on the situation. Because if the Browns won't develop Sanders, someone else will. And if Cleveland keeps dragging its feet, they're going to watch a future franchise QB walk out the door. Again. And here's the worst part, none of this is new. This franchise has a history of squandering opportunity, wasting potential, playing it safe until it's too late. And now, with Sanders showing poise, patience, and potential, they're doing it again. Only this time they can't say they didn't see it coming. The locker room feels it too. When a coach publicly shrugs off a young player's confidence, it sends a message. Not just to Sanders, but to every rookie, every underdog, every future draft pick who might be thinking twice about joining the Browns. It says, if you're not already established, you're not worth the risk. That's not how winning teams are built. That's not how legacies are created. And Jimmy Haslam knows that. He's been through enough failed seasons, enough scapegoated GMs, enough coaching turnovers to know when a team is stagnating. And right now, under Stefanski, the Browns are frozen in place. Terrified of taking a risk, terrified of trusting a young arm, terrified of letting go of the old formula that has never worked. So yeah, Haslam might be ready to fire Stefanski. And at this point, it might be the only move that makes sense. Because the longer they wait, the worse it gets. The longer Sanders sits, the more tension builds. The more alienated he feels. The more other teams circle like sharks. And if the Browns let him go, if they lose another shot at building something real, they won't just lose a quarterback. They'll lose whatever trust fans still have in this team's ability to build a future. You can't teach what Sanders has. That quiet confidence, that leadership, that ability to stay composed while the adults in the room fumble every opportunity? That's rare. And it's exactly what the Browns should be investing in. But instead, they're stuck in a loop, one that ends the same way every time, with wasted potential, more firings, and another year of what if. The NFL isn't built for caution. It rewards teams that bet big, think fast, and trust their instincts. What Stefanski's doing is the opposite, playing not to lose. But when you do that, you never really win. And you better believe Sanders knows it. He's been respectful, but not silent. His comments weren't outlandish. They were realistic. The league is filled with struggling teams who would love to have a quarterback with his skill set and mindset. He knows his worth. And that might be the scariest part for the Browns. Because if they don't start acting like they know it too, he'll find someone who does. So now the pressure's on. Will Stefanski pivot and start treating Sanders like the asset he is? Will the coaching staff finally show some creativity and courage? Or will Haslam have to step in, again, and hit the reset button? Either way, the clock is ticking. And in Cleveland, you don't get a lot of second chances. If Stefanski can't evolve, he's gone. And if the Browns let Shedeur Sanders slip through their fingers, it won't just be another bad call. It'll be the kind of franchise-defining mistake you don't recover from. It's not just about one press conference. It's not just about one quarterback. It's about a culture of fear masquerading as strategy. A refusal to grow that's being passed off as experience. And a fan base that deserves better than another wasted season on the sidelines. So here's your mock moral of the meltdown. In the NFL, you don't sit on talent, you let it cook. And if you can't handle the heat, you get fired. Let's hear it. Should Stefanski stay or go? Is Shedeur Sanders getting sabotaged, or is this just standard rookie politics? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that subscribe button if you want to keep riding the drama roller coaster, and buckle up, because this season in Cleveland is just getting started. Let's not pretend this is just about an awkward comment or a bruised ego. This is systemic. It's about a franchise that has spent decades getting in its own way. And right now, that pattern is being broadcast in high definition through the way Kevin Stefanski is handling, or not handling, Shedeur Sanders. Sanders wasn't asking to be handed the job. He wasn't throwing a tantrum or pulling a diva move. He simply said what any competitor at his level should say, that he believes he can start for most NFL teams. That's not arrogance, that's mindset. And if you're an NFL head coach, You want your young quarterback to think that way. Unless, apparently, you're Kevin Stefanski, who treated that moment like a PR headache instead of a development opportunity. Let's break that down. You have a rookie QB who is mature, confident, well-spoken, and ready to go, and instead of building that up, Stefanski shuts it down. Not even a soft, "we love Shedeur's confidence and he's growing every day" type of political answer. No. He gave nothing. And that says everything. It says he doesn't trust the youth movement. It says he's not willing to take risks. It says the only quarterback getting support is the one who's already done it before, even if that QB's best days are behind him. That's a death sentence in this league. Playing the same script over and over, hoping the ending magically changes. Meanwhile, Shedeur's sitting on the sideline like a time bomb of potential. Every week that goes by is a week another team gets hungrier to trade for him. Because make no mistake, he's not under the radar. The rest of the NFL sees what's happening. The tape is out there. The personality is there. The patience under pressure? It's all there. And Jimmy Haslam? He's watching this unfold like a man who's seen this movie one too many times. He's tried stability. He's tried trusting the process. But this is a coach actively stalling progress. Stefanski isn't just refusing to unleash Sanders, he's refusing to evolve. And in today's NFL, that's a fireable offense. Haslam's history makes this more than just a theory. He's fired coaches for less. Way less. If you think he's going to sit back and let his investment rot on the bench while a stale offense lumbers its way to mediocrity, you haven't been paying attention. This is a man who wants results. No. And Stefanski is quickly running out of excuses. Let's be real, Stefanski got a lot of goodwill after stabilizing the Browns post-Freddie Kitchens. But that leash has a limit. And right now it's fraying. The offense is predictable. The play calling feels like it's from a 2015 playbook. And most importantly, the team feels like it's being led by someone who's more afraid of mistakes than hungry for wins. You can't coach scared. Especially not when your franchise has a quarterback like Sanders on the roster. Someone who actually wants the pressure. Who's asking for the responsibility. And instead of meeting that energy with a plan, Stefanski met it with a shrug. Let's talk about optics. When a coach downplays a young black quarterback's confidence, especially one with Sanders' pedigree and presence, it resonates. It sends a message about who gets believed in, who gets trusted, who gets the chance to fail forward. And if the Browns aren't careful, they'll find themselves being that franchise again, the one that couldn't see what was right in front of them. Sanders isn't just a quarterback. He's a brand. He's media savvy, mature beyond his years, and he carries himself like a franchise cornerstone. If the Browns can't figure out how to market and develop that, it's not a player problem, it's a front office failure. Other teams know it. And don't think they aren't already lining up hypothetical trade scenarios. The Raiders would jump at the chance. The Giants need something to believe in. The Panthers are in full rebuild mode and would probably offer draft picks on draft picks just for the opportunity to start fresh with a quarterback who doesn't fold under pressure. So while Stefanski's playing the cautious card, he's also playing with fire. Because eventually this locker room will notice. Eventually the veterans will start asking questions. Why are we sitting on talent when we need wins? Why are we playing not to lose when we've already lost so much? And when that doubt creeps in, it's over. The NFL is brutal. Coaches don't get do-overs. Players don't wait around forever. And when ownership smells stagnation, heads roll. That's just the reality. And Stefanski? He's not giving Haslam any reason to pause. And the thing is, this was preventable. Stefanski could have played this smarter. He could have praised Sanders while still backing Flacco. He could have teased the future while maintaining veteran loyalty. But instead he chose indifference. And now the narrative is out of his control. The headlines don't read, "Stefanski supports rookies' growth." They read, "Browns coach shrugs off Shedeur Sanders." That's the kind of media cycle that spirals. That invites pressure. That creates division, not just in the press but in the building. Because now, every bad throw from Flacco will feel heavier. Every stalled drive will be a reminder of who's not getting a chance. And every time Sanders takes the high road in interviews, it makes Stefanski look smaller by comparison. The optics are not in his favor. And to make matters worse, the fan base is restless. Browns fans have been through enough. They've watched elite talent come and go. They've watched rebuilds collapse, promises break, hope fizzle out before October. And now, when there's a chance to do things differently, to actually build something, is being wasted. If Shedeur Sanders ends up in a different jersey next season, the Browns will deserve every bit of criticism that comes their way. Because there's no way to spin it. You had him. You could have nurtured him. and you let pride, fear, or outdated play calling get in the way. This isn't a fairy tale. There's no magic turnaround unless the Browns make one happen. Stefanski either adapts fast or gets replaced. That's it. There is no middle ground when the stakes are this high. Haslam isn't just worried about wins and losses, he's worried about the culture, about the mentality of the team. And Stefanski's response showed a coach more interested in preserving the status quo than pushing boundaries. That's not the leader the Browns need right now. If this team wants to stop being a punchline, they have to start betting on the future. On boldness. On players who aren't afraid to speak up and back it up. Because if they won't, someone else will. And they'll win with the quarterback Cleveland didn't have the guts to trust. The bottom line? This isn't a question of if change is coming, it's a matter of when. Stefanski is standing on borrowed time. And every week Sanders doesn't touch the field is a week closer to the Browns imploding from the inside out. So go ahead, Cleveland. Keep ignoring the gift you've been handed. Keep pretending that playing it safe is a strategy. Keep treating confidence like a liability. But don't act surprised when Shedeur Sanders is winning games somewhere else, and you're stuck trying to figure out how you let it all slip away. Again. The Cleveland Browns are afraid of their own potential. That's the real story here. This franchise has the tools. It has the talent. It has the stage. But when it comes time to step into the spotlight and make bold moves, they freeze. Like clockwork. And Kevin Stefanski's handling of Shedeur Sanders is just the latest act in a long-running drama of self-sabotage. You'd think after years of being that team, the one passed over, memed to death, clowned on by national sports media, the Browns would finally be ready to break the cycle. You'd think they'd jump at the chance to develop a quarterback who actually wants the smoke. A guy who's not scared of the pressure. A guy who expects to win. But no. Stefanski's response to Sanders wasn't just tone-deaf. It was telling. It said everything you need to know about where this franchise still is mentally. Afraid. Rigid. More concerned about not rocking the boat than actually moving it forward. And here's the kicker. It's not like Stefanski has earned the benefit of the doubt. Let's not rewrite history here. His track record is serviceable at best. He's had one impressive playoff win, followed by years of underwhelming offensive identity and constant quarterback shuffling. He's not Andy Reid. He's not Shanahan. So the audacity to publicly diminish a rookie's self-belief, when your own coaching credibility is hanging by a thread, that's wild. And now the temperature in the building is rising. When your head coach undercuts your young quarterback's confidence on record, that doesn't stay in the media room. That spreads. Players feel it. Staffers talk. Agents pick up the phone. It becomes a thing. And in an NFL locker room, where momentum and morale can shift with a tweet or a soundbite, moments like that are dangerous. It's not just about Sanders. It's about the message Stefanski is sending to every young player in that locker room. That message? Keep your head down. Don't speak up. And don't expect to earn a shot unless we hand it to you. That's not culture. That's a control tactic. And it kills innovation. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders is doing what true leaders do, staying focused. He's not firing back in the media. He's not subtweeting. He's not creating distractions. He's just keeping his head up and trusting that the right people will eventually recognize his value. But here's the uncomfortable truth for Browns fans. If Cleveland doesn't recognize it soon, someone else absolutely will. Because this league is always watching. And every time Stefanski chooses to bench potential in favor of predictability, it lights up a bat signal for other franchises. Teams like the Giants, who are desperate for a face of the future. The Raiders, who love a flashy, confident quarterback with swagger. Even the Patriots, who are in full-on reset mode, could come calling. And if Sanders walks, it's not just a loss, it's a condemnation of everything the Browns claim to be rebuilding. All that talk about building a new era in Cleveland. All that noise about trusting the draft, nurturing talent, creating a winning culture? Out the window. Let's be honest. This situation feels like the beginning of a slow-motion car crash. One we've seen before. A young, promising player starts getting overlooked. The coach sticks with the vet. The losses pile up. Tensions boil over. The owner gets restless. A few bad headlines turn into a crisis. And before you know it, there's a mid-season firing and an off-season trade no one saw coming. Except this time, everyone can see it coming. We're watching it happen in real time. The Browns are lucky to have Shedeur Sanders. Let's not forget that. This isn't some fringe backup who's trying to make waves. This is a player with pedigree, with poise, with pressure-tested experience. A guy who's had cameras in his face, critics on his back, and still walks into every room like it's already his. You build around players like that. You don't ice them out. You don't dismiss them at press conferences. You don't treat them like they're trying to skip the line. You acknowledge their hunger and channel it. Otherwise they leave, and worse, they succeed somewhere else. And that's what's at stake here for Cleveland. Not just losing a quarterback. Losing a symbol of what this team could finally be. A signal to fans, players, and the league that the Browns are ready to stop playing scared. But so far, Stefanski hasn't gotten the memo. And let's not forget Jimmy Haslam. This isn't some passive billionaire watching from a luxury box. Haslam is active. He's involved. And he's been down this road before. If he feels Stefanski is alienating a franchise QB in the making, you better believe he'll act. Because let's be real, Haslam didn't bring in Sanders to babysit him. He didn't greenlight that pick so the coaching staff could bury him behind a soon-to-be-retired vet. He did it to change the identity of the franchise. To give the Browns a face, a future, and a spark. If Stefanski isn't part of that vision anymore, he'll be out faster than a failed Forte Chin one. And maybe that's exactly what this team needs. A hard reset. A shift away from the safe and stale, to the bold and modern. Because the NFL is unforgiving to those who refuse to evolve. And right now, the Browns are teetering on the edge of irrelevance again. Not because they lack talent, but because they lack guts. So what happens next? Does Stefanski swallow his pride and start embracing the future? Or does he double down, alienate Sanders even more, and force Haslam to step in? Does Sanders stay patient? Or does his camp start quietly exploring options, planting seeds, calling around? One thing's certain. If this team doesn't make a decisive move soon, they're going to lose more than games. They're going to lose credibility. They'll lose the fans who believe things were finally turning around. They'll lose the locker room, piece by piece, to cynicism. And they'll lose the one shot they had at building something real. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just the future of this team, he's a test. A test of whether the Browns have actually learned from their past or if they're just destined to repeat it. And right now, they're failing. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you want more unfiltered breakdowns like this. And tell me in the comments, should Haslam fire Stefanski right now? Or is there still time to save this disaster in progress? Because the clock is ticking. And in Cleveland, the meltdown never sleeps.